Now, how is this done? There's a hormone that your body makes when you're pregnant. It's called beta-HCG. When you inject somebody with something, the premise in medicine is that your body will start making antibodies to fight this. So it will kill it. Well, it just so happens that out of all the compounds in the world, there is one compound that carries the human pregnancy hormone in a vaccine almost with complete efficacy. 100% perfect fit, if you will. It just so happens to be the tetanus toxoid, ladies and gentlemen. The tetanus toxoid is the ideal carrier for the beta-HCG subunit. That is why we have a tetanus mandate, because what they do, and they've been caught doing this in other countries, like in Kenya and other parts of the world, they're putting beta-HCG spiked vaccines into the women. And so what happens when you put a vaccine into a woman that contains an adjuvant and genetic material is that the body starts making antibodies against that genetic material. And the adjuvant makes it keep on happening. It gives it memory. So if you inject women with pregnancy hormone, their bodies make antibodies against pregnancy hormone. That's how you sterilize women. Now, all this stuff is hidden in plain view for those of you who are interested enough to look for it. What I've just told you, you will never hear anywhere. I've been fighting for decades in community activism, and with health freedom and medical freedom, it's been years. And there are all kinds of groups out there that are a bunch of phony balonies that will never talk about what I'm just telling you here right now. Because this is the core and the meat and the potatoes of how things are getting done to hurt everybody. Everything else out there are diversions. I remember as a child, and I always wondered why these kings lived in castles. Because they were afraid, because, you know, they had the king's forest, and everybody was starving and living in squalor and dumping their potty pots out the window, and these rats were the size of your cats, and people had to live and have birth defects and deformed children from malnutrition. And the kings were in the castle with his maidens and having these big feasts every night, and they're weighing 400 and 500 pounds. You read some of the stories in the Bible about how big of a sword it took to kill some of these kings. These people were into gluttony, big time. They had castles with moats around them because they were afraid of the masses, and they had to lock themselves up in these castles to protect them from upset people, because the king was putting the screws to them and their grandparents and their children. That's what's happening right now, folks. They're putting the screws to us, and that's why they want the guns. You know, Jesus Christ, on his last night on earth, I always like to hear people's famous last words. And we know, into your hands I commend my spirit, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do. We've heard that. But I wonder if anybody in this room has ever heard a sermon on the following. And it's in Luke. And it's just before he sat down to get betrayed by Judas. And he said, "He who has no sword, let him sell his cloak and buy one." It's in the Bible. A sword was a military-style weapon. Jesus Christ ordained his followers to be able to defend themselves. There's a reason why things are happening in the United States the way they are. And there's a reason why we have this push to demonize guns. The second leading cause of death in the United States is doctors, ladies and gentlemen. Do we have doctor control? Do we have pharmaceutical control? We have gun control. Why? Because the moat around the castle doesn't work with 7 billion pissed off people. So that's why they need to get rid of everybody. That is why they need to get our numbers down. That's why they have these 180 IQ kids that have been brainwashed and broken through med school, and you can't get through to these people because they've been conditioned and broken to where they will listen to nothing, and they will do everything they were taught and listen to people who are above them and no one else. These are the people that are poisoning everybody. These are the people that are getting behind the vaccinations. These are the people making a darn good living off of medicating everybody who's getting sick from all the wireless. Now, that brings me to my next point here. Anybody want a drink? Because after this, I think you're going to need one.
Oh, you have to put the water down there.
I'm joking. I'm just,
The water
you know, I love happy things, and I love nice things, and I love nature, and I love what God's created, and I just hate evil. That's all there is to it, folks. I can't stand evil, and I hate the things that evil people do. I love everyone, but I hate the dirty works that they're involved in. And I can tell you right now, there's a lot of people that need a lot of prayer. All right, let me go into another thing here, because I don't want to go into that just yet. Okay, light bulbs. Let's talk about light bulbs. Who would ever think light bulbs could be a weapon, right? Let's talk about lighting. You know, the sun is hung high in the sky, and the moon is hung to be the lesser light. And the color of the sun is different than the color of the moon. And I grow most of my food, and I can tell you right now that if you try to grow tomatoes in the shade, you're not going to get any tomatoes. You're going to get a nice green plant, but you're not going to get any fruit. And if you don't have the right spectrum of light coming through your eyes, you're going to have big problems. And ladies and gentlemen, we're sitting under pink fluorescent lighting in this room. And I can tell you right now, if you spend your life underneath this stuff, you're going to get some form of cancer. Whether in the biggest victims of these types of cancers are the women, because they're endocrine cancers. Pink fluorescent lighting was part of the agenda. It was rolled out back in the 60s. It's not nearly as horrible as the LED lighting. LED lighting, if you'll notice, it's kind of pink. These are compact fluorescent lights. It's kind of pinkish. You look at it, it doesn't hurt your eyes. Have you noticed the new street lights? They hurt to look at, don't they? Have you noticed the new headlights in the cars? They hurt your eyes, right? There's a reason that these lights have been changed. The old incandescent light bulbs, you better get your hands on as many as you can. Go to the 99-cent store and buy them all, because you can't get them anymore. Those are the kind of the orange lights. They're not that bright. They use a little more power, but they're calm and soothing, and you don't stay awake all night if you're reading a book by an orange light. And I'll tell you, you want to know the best way to fall asleep, ladies and gentlemen? Read this, and the devil will put you to sleep. Guaranteed, next to an orange light. All right? That'll put you to sleep, guaranteed. But these lights have been designed to inhibit your sleep cycle. The frequency of lighting that comes out of these new LED lights is not natural. And it disrupts your melatonin production. And the melatonin is a sleep hormone, and if you don't sleep, a lot of things go wrong. But one of the biggest problems with melatonin disruption, here's this guy again, is egg quality. Now, let's just say the girl didn't have an iPad. Let's just say the parents were brave enough to say no to the vaccines. And let's just say that she made it that far. Well, now we got another enemy, lighting. Because if you could disrupt the frequency of light that goes to these eyes, and I want to tell you something, I to this day am amazed I look in my children's eyes, I just look in their eyes, it's a window to their soul. There's so much more that goes through these things than we think about. There's so many processes, and there's so much incredibleness in these eyes. And what goes into these eyes controls so many other things. That can be said for the media. You take garbage in, garbage is going to come out. But if you have the wrong lighting spectrum, your health will be destroyed. And they can do different things with different lighting frequencies. Once again, they've got that down to a science. So now we've gotten ourselves into a situation where we can't get away from the wireless. It's a full moon every night driving home, folks. There's a full moon one day a month for a reason. God created the lesser light, and it goes through its phases by design for us not to have sleep disruption, but once a month you have an extra night to get your work done. And I enjoy the full moon. because I get my work done in the garden. I can stay out late without having to be under weird lights. This is another arm of sterilization, folks. The LED street lights are being put in by all the cities under the guise of energy savings. And they disrupt your melatonin. And your melatonin runs your sleep cycle. And proper sleep cycles lend themselves to high quality maturation of female eggs. You disrupt that, you mess with the egg quality. That's what you can look forward to outside your house. I want to talk about autism, because I'm sick and tired of hearing about it. And I don't know if any of you in this room have any autistic children in your family, but my prayers go out to you, because they're human beings created in the image of God, and something went wrong. I'm here to tell you what went wrong, folks. And it's not pretty. And it breaks my heart, because I love children. When you have a situation where everybody's drinking their Diet Coke out of an aluminum can, or their Budweiser out of an aluminum can, and they're cooking on aluminum cookware, and aluminum foil, they're using aluminum deodorant, and there's aluminum in the pesticides, there's aluminum in the fertilizer, and there's aluminum falling out of the sky, for crying out loud. And we got Wi-Fi routers here, deck phones, wireless phones, cordless phones, wireless TVs, wireless baby monitors, wireless camera systems, wireless doorbells. I mean, I'm surprised they don't have wireless water bottles. I mean, at what point do they stop killing us with this stuff? These children are being microwaved, folks. And when you have your laptop in your lap when you're pregnant, you can see right there when the baby's positioned, that is the area of the brain where the most congenital abnormalities are found. One of the best things that you can do if you're pregnant is definitely avoid wireless like the bubonic plague. Now, I know some people can't avoid it because they have jobs. Well, find a way to find another job, or stay the heck away. Don't wear the headsets or the devices. Don't wear those things on your abdomen. Don't keep your phone in your bra. I don't have an illustration for this here, because the FullertonInform.com, there's 500 articles on this website. And on my way over here, I don't know why the Securities and Exchange Commission was looking at it, but I just checked into the tracking to see, who's looking at me tonight. The SEC was on there on the way over here, so I think they were closed for business at the time. They're on the East Coast. It's amazing. They're worried, folks. There's people in the government that are worried about this information, because they want to screw everybody up, sterilize everybody, make everybody sick, and steal all your money and give it away to somebody that doesn't deserve it. And I'm not putting up with it. And I don't think any of you should either. This right here is all you need. Because once you spend time in this instead of the idiot box, nothing else is going to matter. We've got a situation where if you're fortunate enough to not have an iPad when you're growing up, and you're fortunate enough to have your parents avoid the vaccines, and you're fortunate enough to maybe be around a situation where you weren't having all these weird lights, you can get pregnant and have a baby. You think you made it, right? No. Because everybody goes to the hospital to have a baby.